Hello, dear children, and welcome to a magical night of enchanting tales. Tonight, we have a special treat for you. We'll be embarking on a journey through the world of fairy tales, where castles touch the skies, princesses find their true love, and heroes rise to the occasion. As you snuggle under your cozy blankets, let your imagination soar as we explore the adventures of classic characters. We have Cinderella, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, and Aladdin with his magic lamp. So, close your eyes, relax, and get ready for a night filled with wonder, magic, and life lessons. Are you ready? Great! Let's begin. The story of Cinderella. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Cinderella. She had a heart as pure as gold but lived with her wicked stepmother and two jealous stepsisters who made her do all the housework. They were unkind and never allowed her to have any fun. One day, a grand ball was announced at the royal palace, and everyone in the kingdom was invited. Cinderella's heart ached to attend, but her stepmother forbade her, leaving her with a mountain of chores to do on the night of the ball. Cinderella was devastated. But deep inside her, she held on to a glimmer of hope. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars filled the sky, something magical happened. Cinderella's fairy godmother appeared. With a wave of her magic wand, she transformed Cinderella's tattered dress into a magnificent gown, her old shoes into sparkling glass slippers, and a pumpkin into a beautiful carriage. She warned Cinderella to leave the palace before midnight when the magic would wear off. With gratitude and excitement, Cinderella set off to the grand ball. The moment she entered the palace, she was the most beautiful and gracious lady in the room, capturing the attention of everyone, including the handsome prince. They danced, and Cinderella's heart soared with happiness. But as the night wore on, she suddenly remembered her fairy godmother's warning. Panicking, she rushed out of the palace, leaving behind one of her glass slippers. The clock struck midnight, and her beautiful gown turned back into rags, the carriage into a pumpkin, and the horses into mice. The magic had faded, but the memory of the magical evening lived on in Cinderella's heart. The prince was determined to find the mysterious girl who had captured his heart. He searched the entire kingdom, and when he arrived at Cinderella's house, her stepsisters tried to fit their feet into the glass slipper, but it was too small for them. When Cinderella tried it on, it fit perfectly. Recognizing her as the beautiful girl from the ball, the prince married Cinderella, and they lived happily ever after in the palace. Her stepsisters, seeing Cinderella's good fortune, realized the error of their ways and repented for their cruel behavior. Now, dear children, this story of Cinderella teaches us important lessons. It tells us that goodness and kindness are always rewarded, even in the face of cruelty and hardship. And it reminds us that dreams can come true, especially when you hold on to hope. As you close your eyes tonight and drift into dreams, remember the magical world of Cinderella and believe that even the most impossible dreams can come true. The story of Snow White. Once upon a time, in a kingdom blanketed by deep forests and towering mountains, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. Her beauty was renowned throughout the land, but her stepmother, the wicked queen, was consumed by jealousy. The queen was determined to be the fairest in the land, and she would stop at nothing to achieve her desire. Snow White, sweet and kind, with ebony hair and skin as fair as snow, lived a life filled with the cruelty of her wicked stepmother. The queen forced Snow White to do all the castle's chores, wearing rags while she herself donned gowns of the finest silk. One day, the queen asked her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" But to her dismay, the mirror replied, Snow White, on this land, has beauty beyond what you can command." Furious and consumed by jealousy, the queen ordered a huntsman to take Snow White deep into the forest and ensure she would never return. The huntsman, filled with kindness, led Snow White to safety and spared her life, but he couldn't bear to return with the news of her death. Lost in the vast forest, Snow White came upon a small cottage, a cozy little home belonging to 7 friendly dwarfs. Grumpy, Sleepy, Sneezy, Bashful, Happy, Dopey, and Doc, they welcomed Snow White with open arms. They offered her shelter and warmth, and in return, Snow White promised to help with their chores. Back at the castle, the queen discovered that Snow White was still alive and more beautiful than ever. She devised a wicked plan. Disguising herself as an old hag, she offered Snow White a poisoned apple, one that would put her into a deep slumber from which she might never awaken. Snow White, pure of heart, took a bite of the apple, and as the poison took hold, she fell into a deep sleep. The dwarfs, heartbroken, placed her in a glass casket to keep her safe, still believing she would one day awaken. But the power of true love is a wondrous thing. A handsome prince heard of Snow White's plight and, drawn by the stories of her beauty, he came to the dwarf's cottage. Seeing Snow White in the glass casket, he leaned down and kissed her gently. The power of true love's kiss broke the wicked spell, and Snow White awoke. Her eyes met the prince's, and their hearts filled with joy. They knew they were meant to be together. Snow White and the prince married, and the wicked queen's jealousy was her ultimate downfall. Her evil deeds were exposed, and she met her own fate. Now, dear children, this story of Snow White teaches us important lessons. It shows us that kindness and goodness can triumph over jealousy and cruelty. And it reminds us that true love is a powerful force that can conquer even the darkest of spells. As you close your eyes tonight and drift into dreams, remember the enchanted world of Snow White and believe in the power of kindness, love, and the magic that fills our hearts. The story of Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled in a beautiful forest, lived a sweet and innocent girl named Little Red Riding Hood. She was known throughout the village for her kindness and her favorite Red Riding Hood, which her grandmother had lovingly made for her. One sunny morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called her and said, "My dear, your grandmother isn't feeling well. I've prepared a basket of goodies for her. Would you be a dear and take them to her?" Little Red Riding Hood eagerly agreed. She put on her Red Riding Hood, kissed her mother, and skipped into the woods. Her grandmother's cottage was not far away, and she knew the way well. As she wandered through the forest, Little Red Riding Hood was unaware that a cunning wolf had noticed her. The wolf, with a devious plan in mind, approached her and struck up a conversation. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," he said with a sly grin. "Where are you off to on this lovely morning?" Little Red Riding Hood, being polite and innocent, replied, "I'm on my way to visit my dear grandmother and take her this basket of goodies." The wolf, pretending to be friendly, said, "What a kind and loving granddaughter you are. I bet your grandmother would appreciate some beautiful flowers from the forest. Why don't you pick some for her?" Little Red Riding Hood thought it was a wonderful idea, and she began to gather flowers. She was completely unaware of the wolf's wicked intentions. While she was picking flowers, the wolf hurried to the grandmother's cottage. He knocked on the door and called out, "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood. I've brought you some goodies." The unsuspecting grandmother, hearing what she thought was her granddaughter's voice, invited the wolf inside. But as soon as the wolf entered, he revealed his true self and sprang upon the grandmother, locking her in the closet. Then, he disguised himself in the grandmother's nightgown and lay in wait for Little Red Riding Hood. When Little Red Riding Hood finally arrived at her grandmother's cottage, she felt a sense of unease. Her grandmother looked different today, she thought. "Grandmother, what big ears you have," she remarked. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "And what big eyes you have," she continued. "All the better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf once more. Little Red Riding Hood, becoming more suspicious, asked, "What big teeth you have, grandmother." "All the better to eat you with." With that, the wolf leaped out of the bed, his plan now revealed. But Little Red Riding Hood was not just sweet, she was clever too. With a scream, she ran out of the cottage and into the forest. The wolf chased her, but he couldn't catch her. As Little Red Riding Hood ran deeper into the forest, a group of woodcutters heard her cries and came to her rescue. They scared the wolf away, and he never bothered anyone in the village again. Now, dear children, this story of Little Red Riding Hood teaches us important lessons. It reminds us to be cautious when speaking to strangers and to trust our instincts when something doesn't feel right. And it shows us that bravery and quick thinking can overcome even the most cunning of foes. As you close your eyes tonight and drift into dreams, remember the enchanted world of Little Red Riding Hood and the wisdom it imparts. Stay safe and trust your instincts, and may your dreams be as